Every religion, as far as I know, has the goal of peace, prosperity, and security of all mankind. This is certainly the basis of Judaism and Christianity. We all will encounter the other. And the question is, what shall be our relation to the other? The Bible we choose and Christians share is quite clear. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. This is reflected in Leviticus in the Jewish scriptures, but also in what you call the New Testament, where Jesus explains that the love of God and the love of the other is central. In Psalm 119, it says, I am a friend of all who fear you. And the rabbinic literature demands that I have to reach out to the other, to seek, to pursue shalom. Shalom, which is often translated as peace, is more than that. It also means harmony, wholeness, prosperity, and tranquility. Religion is not the source of conflict, as often perceived, but the solution. The Abraham Accords, the peace treaty between the Gulf states and Israel, have recently shown how much interreligious dialogue can be fruitful where secular political solutions seem almost impossible. It is probably the first diplomatic accord in which specifically Abraham, a religious figure, is mentioned. And it shows that there is a bridge between Muslims and Jews beyond political or social affiliations. Religion is something that automatically connects people of religions. We as religious people can build the bridge and the bridges between peoples and cultures. The borders today are not between Jews, Christians, and Muslims, but between people of good faith and goodwill on the one hand, and those who don't share this credo on the other hand. We can and shall provide and counter and learn and teach about the other and open the doors for a true shalom.
Good morning, dear esteemed scholars, ladies and gentlemen. As we all know, weapons production is directly connected to weapons consumption. Weapons consumption is also directly connected to wars and conflicts. Wars and conflicts are the ultimate consequences of hatred. Hatred is the expression of unfairly solutions to problems between states or between peoples. Political sciences tell us that most of today's conflicts are not new. They are old, but unjustly settled. Weapons-producing countries are the same countries who dominate the world order. They influence conflicts and sell their weapons, and then they solve conflicts when the market is saturated or even or over weaponized. But the solutions are made not to be permanent. They are made to be unjust. Unjust solutions are intentionally made and imposed when the conflicting sides are not able anymore to pay for their weapons. Later, when they become able again, they will be encouraged to reconsider the unjust settlement by force. So they turn again to weapons. Consuming new weapons leads to producing more, and so the vicious circle goes on and on. That's why it is said that better to have a just war than unjust peace. But is there really a just war? The fact is that the only alternative to coexistence is co-destruction. And in the long run, all wars are lost. So also, all the money spent on weapons is lost. Look at us now. We put on face masks to protect ourselves and others from a virus we cannot see. But what about all those other unseen viruses we need to protect ourselves from? How will we deal with the hidden pandemics of this world, the pandemics of hunger and violence, climate change, and atomic weapons? If we are to come out of this crisis less selfish than when we went in, we have to let ourselves be touched by others' pain. There is a line in Friedrich Hölderlin, Patmos, that speaks to us about how the danger that threatens in a crisis is never total. There is always a way out. He says, where the danger is, also grows the saving power. That's the genius in the human story. There is always a way to escape destruction. Where humankind has to act is precisely there, in the threat itself. That's where the door opens. In order not to lose lives and money, the pandemic proved to us, as His Holiness Pope Francis said in his message, Fratelli Tutti, we humans are one family, sailing in one boat. Either we sink and drown together, or we find our way to a safe shores together. With this Holy Father, Pope Francis, enlightened by the Holy Spirit, humanity has a chance to rebuild its brotherhood, fraternity, and this is clearly twinkling in Fratelli Tutti that is delivered by His Holiness. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me to this very important and timely conference, when the need for spiritual guidance is of utmost importance. The past year has revealed even more sharply the inequality that exists in our world. It has become starkly apparent through the COVID-19 pandemic that our destinies are linked and barriers created by society are crumbling as we begin to realize how vulnerable our life is, how interdependent we are, and how little the value of wealth is in our struggle for good health and happiness. As we suffer under lockdown conditions, the millions of workers engaged in providing essential services have now assumed greater significance. More importantly, is the realization that their vulnerability is as acute as ours. Meeting the Sustainable Development Goals is now more pressing than ever before as the COVID-19 pandemic sweeps through every corner of our fragile planet. Hunger, homelessness, and lack of access to the basic necessities of life need to be addressed urgently, not just for the good of those suffering, but also for the good of us all. In all of this, we see very acutely the need to maintain peace and stop all war and violence. The trillions of dollars spent on the manufacture, sale, and distribution of arms and ammunition, and on the invention of weapons of mass destruction, can instead be used to successfully transform the lives of millions of people living in poverty. Wars have resulted not only in deaths of thousands around the world, but also in the flight of millions from situations of war to seek asylum in other countries, increasing the number of refugees in the world. Gandhiji's life was spent in trying to build a culture of nonviolence. Nonviolence does not just mean the absence of violence, but it is a way of life. Gandhiji wrote, and I quote, "We have to make truth and nonviolence matters, not for mere individual practice, but for practice by groups, communities, and nations." I close quote. 3 important ways in which we can make a difference are: 1, breaking down barriers and respecting all God's children, regardless of gender, class, caste, race, status, and any other societal barriers. 2, building a community on egalitarian principles and breaking down the polarization of communities between the super wealthy and the starkly poor. To achieve greater equality or equity, Gandhiji suggested a trusteeship model, which entails the voluntary acceptance of responsibility by those who have accumulated a lot of wealth to utilize their wealth in the interest of the marginalized and deprived, and to support and enhance their lives. This model is similar to the economy of solidarity, which His Holiness refers to. 3, a clear focus on true practice of our faiths. Through this, we can build a culture of compassion, love, and responsibility towards others, towards animals, and towards our environment. If we achieve this, there will be no place for greed, hatred, anger, and armaments. There will be place for peaceful negotiations. There will be place for caring and sharing, and there will be place for love and cherishing. To achieve this, let us all come together and support the Arms Freeze campaign now.
The COVID-19 pandemic has created an unprecedented situation globally, but this extraordinary crisis also conceals an incredible opportunity, yet wrapped within a tremendous challenge, namely to rebuild a better nuclear weapons-free world. But this can only succeed if there is solidarity and unity not only between nation states but also between world religions, so that together we can transform this global disaster into a nursery of cooperation and empathy. During the enforced lockdown that for me metamorphosed into a meditation retreat of spiritual renewal, I realized how Hinduism constitutes a lived religious philosophy, underscoring, firstly, the sacredness of all life, with all living species in our biodiversity embodying a divine spark, and secondly, the underlying oneness of all beings. This implies, logically, that all forms of life are to be loved and revered, and therefore the practice of ahimsa, or non-violence, is held to be sacrosanct. Notably, ahimsa signifies not just physical non-violence, but means more extensively avoiding any harm, whether physical, mental, or emotional. Ideally, ahimsa also implies the renunciation of any form of domination over other beings. In short, the paramount importance in all Indic religions given to ahimsa can greatly contribute towards world peace. Delving deeper, ahimsa is paired with satya, truth, derived from sat, signifying an existential and unifying foundation of all that lives. As such, ahimsa not only represents a force greater than violence, but also connotes that self-sacrifice is preferable to the sacrifice of others. Another dimension is ahimsa's faithful consort, karuna, meaning compassion. Karuna is considered an inherent quality in all human beings. Because of the underlying oneness of all beings, karuna is extended to others not just out of love, but because it is an entirely logical thing to do. As a direct antidote to cruelty, and indeed as a psycho-spiritual vaccine against the coronavirus, karuna can help to eliminate callousness and indifference to the woes of others, and yet being selfless compassion, karuna expects nothing in return, not even gratitude. In a nutshell, the exemplification of karuna, satya and ahimsa in thought and deed would not only help us to retrieve the sacred in modern times, but also enable India to redeem herself in the eyes of the world thanks to her civilizational wisdom. In line with a verse from the Rig Veda which exhorts us to come together, talk together, let our minds be in harmony, perfect be the union among us, let us, in mutuality and fellowship, eschewing polarization, appeal to the humanity of all nation states to tackle our shared moral task so that discord can metamorphose into a transformative and cooperative new paradigm. Our ultimate goal, through interreligious dialogue, laying down weapons of the mind and the heart, would be to advance integral universal disarmament, to rid the globe of nuclear weapons, not only because they cause catastrophic harm that even affects future generations, but also because they are totally obsolete and unable to meet today's challenges. And instead, we should create a global fund from the astronomical nuclear expenditure to be used infinitely more viably for health, education, and the fight against climate change, and thereby ensure human and environmental security and well-being globally. To conclude, Hinduism, together with other world religions, provides us with a moral compass to help us navigate our way away from cataclysmic disaster to shape a new paradigm in order to realize a more humane and sustainable future for our planet Earth. Thank you.
Advancing integral disarmament in times of pandemic. Adonai, Most Reverend His Holiness, Acharyas and Gurus, and humble Namaste to all. Absence of war is not peace. To ensure peace, harmony is important, and significantly, harmony comes when all essences are in symphony. To create harmony, dissolving the self is needed to create an array of emotional rainbow. The statement might sound dreamy. At the same time, this is the base of integral humanity. This dream that man, society, nation, and the world dissolve their egos and come together as a single race to promote the idea of unison or ekatmata. However, history in continuation with the present times has proved that this is not easy, that the world, which resides in contours of religions, powers, economies, systems and societies, shall echo similar sentiments is under doubt. That everyone shall keep human at the center and then take a stand is suspicious. That powerful countries shall use power to protect and not to scare the less powerful nations. What should then be the prognosis? That human race must stand at the brink of war forever? That wars may change their shapes and nature anytime? That from armaments to chemical biological wars, a human heart must always fear death and destruction? And while the world had been so very engaged In all these situations at one side and fighting with poverty, illness, hunger, illiteracy, abuse to the nature and planet, and scarcity of basic human needs, and was constantly involved in spending large amount on becoming armed nation by spending more than capacitated budget on the entire world came to a standstill. And what a standstill! Total lockdown, stopping entire race with equitable emotions was perhaps this example in entire world history. Pandemic brought everything to a closer. It resonated dissolution, despair, helplessness, danger, and a need for togetherness, cooperation, innovation, and care in the same breath. If not now, then when integral humanism will be louder heard? Today, world is witnessing a new order where divided boundaries are joining hands. Many factors have brought the leveling effects. This is the right time to revisit concerns in integral manner, raising oneself above religions, power, economies, and armed status. Post-pandemic equations are opportunities to give a timely message to strategists to rise above, to go back to human instincts of love, care, and compassion. A timely theme has been brought by Vatican COVID-19 Commission, and pandemic must serve the clarion call to respond to advanced need of integral humanism through disarmament. A web-based connect has given a way to reverberate together. Suspicions on absence of physical presence has led to virtual concentrations, which is termed as Atmic connection, the soul connection in Indian philosophy. Thinkers and practitioners such as Mahatma Gandhi, Swami Vivekananda, Lala Lajpat Rai, Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay, and many other practicing philosophers have echoed what is given in Vedas on integral humanism. Om Sahnavaktu Sahnau Bhanaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhi Matsastu Mavid Vishavahai. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Meaning, may He protect us together, may He nourish us together, may we work conjointly with great energy, may our study be vigorous and effective, may we not mutually dispute or hate, let there be peace in me, let there be peace in my environment, let there be peace in the forces that act on me. Dhanyavad. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Yoshinori Shinohara. I'm Secretary General of Religions for Peace Japan. First of all, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the organizers of this online event, especially Vatican and the Source Channel for hosting this significant event. I think this is a very timely meeting as under the coronavirus disaster, the idea of integral disarmament is really needed globally. I also would like to thank you for inviting me to deliver online speech on the role of religions and interreligious dialogue in shaping a new paradigm of security. Religions for Peace has been working on various peace issues as a coalition of religions since 1970. The main reasons for its founding 50 years ago was its mission to abolish nuclear weapons altogether. This photo was taken at the time of founding. Since then, we have been conducting advocacy activities for disarmament to the United Nations and governments and educating citizens and youth generation about the importance of abolition of nuclear weapons. In particular, as the only country to have experienced explosion of atomic bomb, Religions for Peace Japan has been working for many years on this matter. Today, COVID-19 is causing economic stagnation and political stalemate globally. Self-centeredness is spreading. International division and economic disparity are deepening, and global mutual distrust is increasing. In this situation, as a coalition of religious organizations, Religions for Peace Japan strongly advocate two things when considering a new security paradigm. The first is the rejection of the theory of deterrence by the military. Possessing weapons may be justified because it can deter and suppress military attacks from other countries. In particular, the reason why nuclear weapons have not been eliminated is because of this idea of deterrence. The essence of this deterrence theory is it is based on distrust between human beings, which is an intimidation, threats, and suspicions. Such a relationship of suspicions and distrust will only increase mutual hatred and the danger of war. I believe the most urgent task is to create an international environment that eliminates distrust. We as religious people do not adhere to the theory of deterrence, but call for international cooperation by building trust and credibility. The second is to reduce military spending and redirect that budget to addressing COVID-19. All countries are likely to face difficulties in securing financial resources for social security and medical expenses. For example, in the US, the country with the highest number of infections and deaths due to COVID-19, if $35 billion US budget for nuclear weapons, which promotes the innovation of nuclear weapons, is replaced with medical expenses, 300,000 intensive care unit beds and 35,000 artificial respirators could be provided, and the salaries of 150,000 nurses and 75,000 doctors could be covered. Thus, the concept of integral disarmament is required to reduce military spending and use the money to pay for medical care. In solidarity with you, Religions for Peace Japan will continue to strengthen advocacy to governments and awareness-raising activities for citizens in order to further promote an integral disarmament in the time of COVID-19. Thank you very much for your attention.
Namaste. I am extremely honored and blessed to be a part of this very critical for our times webinar, hosted and organized by the Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development in collaboration with SCRAP, in support of the call for a global ceasefire by the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, and in response to the third encyclical of His Holiness Pope Francis, Fratelli Tutti, All Brothers, that is subtitled on fraternity and social friendship. I would also like to thank His Eminence Cardinal Peter Turkson, as well as His Eminence Cardinal Miguel Ayuso and the Pontifical Council for the Interreligious Dialogue for facilitating this session. We have not inherited this planet from our ancestors. We have borrowed it from our future generations. And anything that is borrowed needs to be returned with interest while paying back the principal as is. And here we are, left, right, and center, robbing our present and future generations of their very birthright to a healthy, harmonious, and happy planet. We all bow down to something or someone. The tragedy is when we bow down to destructive forces of power, ego, and control. This is not happening for the first time, but it is in our hands to make sure that it is happening for the last time in the cycle of human history. My birth religion, Zoroastrianism, stands on the three pillars, which are good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. These three simple, beautiful tenets, which in different words are the true essence of world religions, faiths, and spiritual learning. Yet, it seems most difficult to achieve because we are constantly running after instant gratifications of what is in it for me and crossing the sacred thresholds of self-preservation. My beloved God Master Avtar Meher Baba said in 1942 on the subject of the need for creative leadership, "We can never have any vigorous world culture by merely piling together certain isolated elements selected from the present diversity of culture. That way, we shall only succeed in getting a patchwork of little vitality. A hodgepodge of collected ideas can never be a substitute for a direct and fresh perception of the goal. The new world culture will have to emerge from an integral vision of the truth. In order to appreciate truth, approach it through itself, without any game of hide and seek. As world change makers, we have to delete this noise and stop playing hide and seek with the integral truth of life. We must urge our larger family of human siblings to engage in meaningful dialogue and contribute our voices to implement this global ceasefire. We must, through our individual socio-spiritual responsibility, invite all on the influencing hot seat of life to commit to tangible, actionable steps towards general and complete disarmament that is integral to human development and soul evolution. Also, as the Director of Unity in Diversity World Civil Society and the Golden Door Ambassador for Truth and Integrity, I echo Pope John 23rd, that it is vital that people lay down the weapons of their minds and awaken their heart to find peace, to bring this much-needed societal change and concord to the world. We shall then be able to realign our focus and funds from weaponry to the true needs of food, healthcare, education, and a healthy environment of dignified labor. Let us not be just, focus on this webinar and the agenda being so today. It is imperative that more than ever before, now we move towards conscious spiritual leadership that operates from this divine standpoint to create a new paradigm of oneness and secured living through inner disarmament by deleting our disparaging software of hatred, discrimination, and separations, and thus elevate humanity to higher grounds of progress, abundance, and oneness. We as spiritual leaders and influencers, guides, must stand ready to chaperone each one along the way. With every freedom comes greater responsibility, and with every responsibility comes greater accountability for us to rise and show up for this call of life, paving the way for the new humanity. Signing off with a namaste, which means the God within me bows down to the God within you. The consciousness within me bows down to the consciousness within you. Stay blessed. Victory to humanity.
Jai Jinendra. I'm Rajiv Shah and representing One Jain UK. Global military spending keeps on increasing every year. It was around $1 trillion at the turn of the century to almost $2 trillion in 2020. Despite financial and economic crisis, nations are not curbing arms production. Cold War may have ended, however regional, national, ethnic wars are continuing. Shouldn't wars be something that our children read in history books? Yet they are rampant across the globe. Violence and terrorism has taken a heavy toll on innocent lives and fostered a climate of fear, hostility, hatred, mistrust, discrimination, exploitation, and intolerance. Isn't it an irony that the focus of this conference is about the threat to human existence in the future, not because of natural calamities, but because of the threat of weapons of destruction? Technological and scientific progress at the expense of moral and ethical values has resulted in stockpiles of weapons of mass destruction. United Nations was formed to foster global peace, but it too has to resort to armed forces. Time has come for thinking about non-violent methods. Ahimsa, non-violence, is one of the 5 fundamental tenets of the Jain philosophy, which provides a holistic approach to inculcate a transformation in the minds of humans to live in harmony, keeping in mind that all life is independent and interdependent. In Uttaradhyan Sutra, one of the Jain scriptures, it states that a monk cannot be called a monk by change of attire, but by a change of attitude. On the same note, nations cannot get prominence by dominance, but by reverence for all life. For Jains, ahimsa extends to all life forms and is a way of life to coexist with nature. Lord Mahavir, who was the last prophet for the Jains, observed, character, vows, virtues and knowledge are meaningless unless non-violence and reverence for life is enshrined in our hearts. Violence cannot be killed. Its spirit has to be extinguished from the hearts and minds of human beings, which will lead to compassion, charity and care for all. In Acharan Sutra, another Jain scripture, an analogy is given. One warrior may conquer 1,000,000 enemies in war, compared to a person who conquers their soul. Between these two victors, the real victory is one who conquers their self, implying victory over one's anger, ego, deceit and greed is the greatest of all victories. Universal self-preservation underpins the Jain philosophy. Every single soul, be it that of animal, plant or human, seeks happiness and no one likes suffering. Just as a rose emits fragrance to the one who plucks it, we all need to foster the feeling of forgiveness to one another. The fruits of forgiveness is fraternity amongst all, which will alleviate the utility of weapons. Forgiveness is encapsulated in a wonderful Jain prayer. I forgive all souls, may all souls forgive me. I have enmity with all and animosity with none. What is evident before us is that violence cannot be eradicated by violence, and on the contrary, it aggravates it. Therefore, humanity needs to develop a mindset that ahimsa alone is the savior of this strife-born, terror-inflicted and environmentally polluted world of ours. This mindset will lead to non-violent words and deeds. Dr. N.P. Jain, who was a former Indian ambassador to the United Nations, said, time has come to assert the courage of ahimsa, non-violence, and to reinforce spirituality underpinning the global efforts to fight and overcome violence and terrorism. He further adds, the search for durable peace must be built not on weapons of mass destruction, but on the foundation of heightened spiritual vitality and mutual confidence inspired by love, compassion, service and faith. As Martin Luther King said, the choice is not between violence and non-violence, but between violence and non-existence. Mahatma Gandhi in his favorite prayer echoes, for one and only one thing I long, to free living beings from their agony and pain, to wipe away their tears. Acharya Channaji, a Jain spiritual guru, eloquently states, ahimsa is a true and unconditional surrender of our own identity for the welfare of others. It is not a mere principle of any particular religion. It is in consonance with the true nature of all living beings. Along the same veins, the eminent Acharya Mahapragya mentioned that to establish peace, humans should move away from the direction of conflict and instead strive towards interdependence. The Jain trinity of ahimsa, non-violence, aparigraha, non-possessiveness, and anekantvad, multiplicity of viewpoints, is indeed the solution to eradicate the weapons of mass destruction. This will manifest tolerance, coexistence, compassion, empathy, sympathy, kindness, and forgiveness. This is the only sustainable roadmap for a harmonious world. Time has come for us all to think of our collective future, a future that sustains us and our future generations. We need to transform our thoughts, actions, and deeds through sound education and morality, resulting in transformation of greed into contentment, hate with tolerance, and killing with reverence for all life. Emperor Ashok said, victories of peace are far more enduring than victories of war. If we stop the arm race, we can use our arms to embrace each other and race towards a peaceful world. Thank you.
Good day to all. My name is K.S. Ahluwalia from India, and it's a privilege for me to be in the company of thinkers, doers, who are steadfast in creating a better world for us all, each time, every time. My 2 cents on the caption topic are as follows. Nature gave us all one planet to exist and bloom, brighter each time, every time. Yet amusingly, we humans, the most evolved ones, choose to charter a path of distinction, difference, fragmentation, annihilations, where I, me and mine, my way or the highway, I am the only solo player, became our friends, philosophers and guides. Let's give ourselves the right due. Yes, we are continuously making progress to make this world a better place to live in for us all. We've created mammoth, gigantic buildings kissing the sky. We're exploring the mysteries, finding answers. We are traveling to other planets to find traces of life there, and we are making ourselves more, yet more powerful, such that we eliminate any disconnect, any dissent, any argument confronting us. What's the result? We are witnessing with disdain, impunity, indifference, mostly the large-scale pollution across spectrum in each and every sphere: water, air, land, flora, fauna. We have ever-increasing greenhouse emissions, expansion of the carbon footprint, piling of chemical weapons of mass destruction, nuclear arsenal, each adding additional brick to annihilation of the life from this planet. So what do we do next now? We have come now to the crossroads of our existence, and internally all of us, yes, we know what is the right path, yet we choose not to take it because it's damn hard, very hard and extremely hard. It's now time for us to go back to our roots so as to correct the imbalance in our thinking, as our present thought patterns are not helping us, leading us to a construct anymore. Treating the branches or effecting symptomatic treatment heals never. It never had, never shall, and never will. Hence, getting back to our basics, our edifice, our roots, to search, explore, analyze, and then crystallize what we ought to do and what we are doing now is the new watchword for us. And what's our base? Our base is nature, which is godliness, divinity, ethos, value compass, ethics, consciousness, our evolution base. They are not standalone good sounding words. They are concepts that redefine, refine the way we think, do, and be. They are the guiding principles that urge us to take the right path, even if it's hard, effect of course correction, even it's painful. Let's not dwell what the Sikh ethos shares solutions to these challenges. Like other intense streams of wisdom, Sikh ethos asserts the following in loud, clear, and ambiguous terms. First, establishing just, equitable, respectful, and evolving unison between man and nature, where they complement each other, supplement each other, work alongside with each other, never substitute each other, a collaborative commitment till eternity. Secondly, giving space to others first and thus creating space for yourself is being sensitive to mutual needs by providing, nurturing continuously a vibrant ecosystem. Guru, inferring the realized one who is respected, is affixed for water, air, land, signifying that they are divinity personified and not object, mundane, available resources. Hence, one needs to be wise in gratitude, humbleness while using them. Imbibing the change values comprising of pragmatism, equality, justice, adaptability, courage, forgiveness, dynamism, moderation, freedom, openness, discipline, solidarity, commonality, unity, and devotion are the other key concepts that need to be imbibed during all times, most so in integral disarmaments in terms of pandemic. Sikh ethos stresses imbibing the concept of utopia for realists, of constructing a society with visionary ideas that are in fact wholly implementable and measurable. Lastly, Sikh ethos encourages us all to ask questions. Edifice being change your questions to change your life. Keep asking and exploring to find a construct better, such that one achieves absolute fulfillment in life. There are no religions, no beliefs, no dogmas that exist. What exists for all of us is connectedness without boundaries, mutual respect, cohesion, working alongside with each other, inculcating meaningful conversations without aiming or defeating, where we work as one. We are all part of one, each correlating and immersing with each other. Let's keep it simple. We owe it to ourselves first and then others. Let's be responsible and accountable in the now while being a rational optimist. These are my 2 cents on the role of religions and interreligious dialogues in shaping up a new paradigm of security. Your call now, folks. Thank you.